Some of the greatest minds in history do not agree upon this matter. Do we have moral obligations towards animals? In today's episode, we'll dive into the three most popular schools of ethics to explore their perspective on this issue. First up is utilitarianism. Let's get started. The day may come when the rest of the animal creation may acquire those rights which never could have been withholden from them but by the hand of tyranny. The French have already discovered that the blackness of the skin is no reason why a human being should be abandoned without redress to the caprice of a tormentor. The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Thus wrote the father of utilitarianism, Jeremy Bentham. Do you agree with Bentham? Should the capacity for suffering be the thing which we should always consider? Because if that is the case, then many of us are in a way committing murder more or less every day when we eat meat. Maybe we're making a grave mistake when we kill animals. Maybe we're no better than the slave traders who treated fellow human beings as vermin. Peter Singer is famous for advocating on behalf of animals. He thinks that animals too have preferences and interests that we should always consider. If we're wholehearted utilitarians, this seems to follow. But there are different versions of utilitarianism. According to the standard version, happiness is the sole thing that possesses moral worth. It is intrinsically good. All else are mere instruments to increase happiness. This means that life in itself does not possess any real moral worth. There is nothing intrinsically good about life. Only happiness counts. Roughly put, from this view, we humans are mere containers of possible happiness. So from this perspective, it doesn't necessarily follow that we should completely stop eating meat, because the killing of an animal, if done without suffering, is a neutral act. But one might argue that killing cannot be done without causing suffering, which seems plausible. Therefore, we should all become vegetarians or vegans. Kant disagrees heavily on this point. He grounds his whole theory of morality within autonomy and rationality. According to Kant, we humans possess freedom of the will and the rational capacity necessary for understanding morality. If you think about it, in order to act morally, one must, in a way, possess the capacity for freedom of the will. If we live in a completely deterministic world where no freedom of the will occurs, one could never act otherwise than what is determined. And here is the thing. It seems as though animals only act upon instincts. They are creatures bound by determinism. For instance, we would never consider a lion immoral if it killed a man. We would simply say that it acted upon instincts. Therefore, it seems as though we cannot include animals within our theory of morality at all. But this doesn't mean that we can treat animals any way we want. Kant thought that we can judge the heart of a person by how he treats animals. So the production of meat should still be as humane as possible. But Nietzsche made an easy but serious complaint here, because it seems as though that we humans too are shackled by the laws of causality. We are not unique one bit. We are just as bound by determinism as animals. And if that is the case, then maybe the whole of Kant's system falls. I believe actually that there is a very interesting solution to this problem posed by Nietzsche that exists within a deterministic framework, but more about that later. First, let's discuss virtue ethics. Aristotle, who is commonly seen as the father of virtue ethics, didn't really care for animals. Very similar to Kant, he thought that only humans possessed a rational soul. Therefore, animals do not have the same moral standing. and they can be used by us as companions, laborers, or food. But also, according to Aristotle, everything, including animals, has a telos, an end purpose or goal which it ought to live according to. Can we really say that being born in a pen, spending its whole life within that same pen, fed only to get fat, slaughtered, and eaten, is really a life in accordance with a pig's telos? So I think we ought at least to treat animals according to their telos, shouldn't we? But what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Virtue ethics also highlights the well-balanced life. Nothing should be done in excess, including eating meat. And we know this. A healthy food intake includes a variety of foods. This discussion about who we ought to include within our ethical thinking can be characterized as the quest for personhood. Should animals be considered persons just like us? And if they are not persons, on what grounds can we make that claim? As mentioned before, Nietzsche posed a big problem for Kantianism when it comes to autonomy, which was one of Kant's ways of distinguishing between animals and persons. In this video here, I explain what I think is a solution to Nietzsche's problem.